The champagne glass slipped from Serena's fingers the moment Ethan Blake raised the microphone. The ballroom of the Grand Manhattan Hotel fell silent under the glow of crystal chandeliers. Billionaires, politicians, fashion executives, and media icons turned toward the stage, expecting another polished corporate speech from the youngest CEO in New York's tech industry. Instead, Ethan smiled nervously and said words no one in the room expected. "I want to introduce someone important tonight. My wife." A ripple of confusion spread instantly, because everyone in that room knew Ethan Blake was supposed to marry Victoria Hale next month, the daughter of one of the richest investment families in America. But the woman standing near the back of the ballroom, frozen beside the dessert table, was not Victoria. It was Serena Vale, the woman Ethan abandoned 8 months ago, and visibly pregnant. Cameras flashed so fast the room looked like lightning had exploded indoors. Victoria's face turned pale. Board members whispered. Reporters grabbed their phones. Serena's heartbeat pounded so violently she thought she might collapse. She hadn't spoken to Ethan in months, not after the breakup. Not after his mother called her a burden from the wrong side of town. Not after the headlines accused Serena of trying to trap a billionaire with a baby. And definitely not after Ethan stayed silent while the entire world destroyed her online. Serena stared at him from across the room, disbelief burning in her chest. Ethan stepped off the stage slowly. Every eye followed him. Then he stopped in front of her. "I'm sorry," he whispered, voice shaking. "I should have done this a long time ago." The room waited for Serena to cry, to scream, to slap him, to humiliate him publicly. Instead, she calmly picked up her purse. "You waited too long, Ethan." Then she walked away. The silence that followed hurt more than any insult. 3 years earlier, Serena Vale was just a graduate student working 2 jobs in Boston. She delivered food at night, studied business analytics during the day, and spent weekends caring for her sick mother. She wasn't glamorous. She wasn't wealthy. But she was brilliant. That was what first caught Ethan's attention. Not her beauty, not her kindness, her mind. They met at a startup conference where Serena corrected a mistake in Ethan's presentation in front of 200 executives. Everyone expected Ethan to be offended. Instead, he laughed and invited her to coffee. Coffee turned into conversations. Conversations turned into late-night walks. And eventually, love. For 2 years, Serena became Ethan's closest advisor, even though no one officially knew it. Many of Blake Technology's biggest breakthroughs came from ideas Serena quietly developed on Ethan's apartment floor while eating cheap noodles at midnight. But when Ethan's company began collapsing under investor pressure, everything changed. The board wanted stability. Investors wanted power alliances. And Victoria Hale came with billions. Ethan promised Serena it was temporary. A business engagement, he called it. Just until the company survives. But temporary betrayal still felt permanent, especially when Serena discovered she was pregnant days after their breakup. She never told the media, never begged, never sold interviews. She disappeared quietly and rebuilt herself alone. What nobody knew was that Serena had secretly developed a logistics algorithm years earlier while helping Ethan grow his company. Ethan used parts of her ideas, but Serena had continued improving the system independently. After leaving New York, she launched a small operations company from a rented apartment in Chicago. At first, no one took her seriously. Investors laughed. Banks rejected her. One executive literally told her, "Pregnant women don't build empires." Serena smiled politely and kept working. She attended meetings while hiding morning sickness. She coded software between doctor appointments. She slept 4 hours a night. And slowly, small businesses started using her platform because it solved shipping problems faster than billion-dollar competitors. Within a year, Serena's company exploded across North America. Delivery companies partnered with her. Retail giants called her. Investors begged for meetings. By the time Ethan saw her name on Forbes magazine, Serena Vale had become one of the fastest rising CEOs in the country. And she did it without his name, without revenge, without destroying anyone. Meanwhile, Ethan's empire was quietly collapsing. Victoria's father had gained control of Blake Technology's board. Executives Ethan trusted were being replaced. Contracts disappeared. His own company. And he barely listened to him anymore. Then came the final blow. One Friday morning, Ethan discovered the Hale family planned to remove him as CEO after the wedding. He wasn't marrying into power, he was surrendering it. That same night, he saw Serena's interview on television. She sat confidently in a cream-colored suit, one hand resting gently over her baby bump. The interviewer asked the question everyone wanted answered. "Do you regret how things ended with Ethan Blake?" Serena paused thoughtfully. "No," she said softly. "Some people break your heart, some people break your life, but sometimes being left behind forces you to discover your own strength." Ethan turned off the television because he couldn't breathe. For the first time he understood. Serena never needed his empire. She built her own. That realization destroyed him more than hatred ever could. Weeks later, Ethan made the shocking announcement at the Manhattan Gala. Not because he wanted sympathy, not because he wanted headlines, because he finally realized Serena deserved the truth publicly after he failed her privately. But Serena had already crossed the ocean emotionally. She no longer needed class. Osier. Still, fate wasn't done with them. 2 months later, Blake Technologies entered financial freefall after investors withdrew billions overnight. News channels predicted bankruptcy within weeks. Then something unbelievable happened. Serena Vale purchased 28% of the company shares. Wall Street exploded. The internet went insane. Pregnant ex buys ex-boyfriend's empire. Serena Vale saves Blake Technologies from rejected girlfriend to billionaire power player. But Serena didn't buy the company to humiliate Ethan. She bought it because thousands of employees would lose their jobs if the company collapsed. Engineers, receptionists, single mothers, immigrant workers, families, people who had nothing to do with Ethan's mistakes. At the emergency board meeting, executives expected Serena to remove Ethan immediately. Instead, she walked into the glass conference room calmly and sat beside him. Not across from him, beside him. One board member frowned. "Miss Vale, surely you understand Mr. Blake's decisions caused this crisis." Serena looked around the room quietly. "Then why were all of you silent while benefiting from those decisions?" "No," one answered. For the first time in years, the boardroom became honest. Serena restructured the company within 6 months. She cut executive bonuses and protected employee salaries. She launched mental health support programs. She opened paid internships for low-income students. She created maternity protection policies after remembering how investors treated her pregnancy like weakness. Employees who once feared losing everything began calling her the heart of Blake Technologies, not because she was soft, because she understood struggle. And Ethan watched all of it with equal parts admiration and regret. One snowy evening after work, Serena stayed late reviewing reports in the empty office while her infant daughter slept in a nearby bassinet. Ethan entered quietly carrying coffee. "You still work too hard," he said gently. Serena didn't look up. "And you still interrupt meetings without knocking." A small smile appeared between them for the first time in years. Ethan glanced at the baby. "She has your eyes." "No," Serena replied softly. "She has my stubbornness." For a moment, the pain between them softened into something human again. Not romance, not forgiveness, just understanding. Ethan finally spoke. "I spent years thinking power meant controlling everything." He looked around the office Serena rebuilt from ashes. "But you became stronger by helping people instead." Serena closed her laptop slowly. "When you grow up with nothing," she said, "you learn something rich people forget." "What's that?" "That kindness is also power." Outside, snow covered the streets of Manhattan in white silence, while inside the empire everyone thought belonged to Ethan Blake had already become Serena Vale's legacy. The next morning, headlines about Serena Vale flooded every major news channel in America. She saved the company her ex nearly destroyed, the pregnant woman who took over a billion-dollar empire, from rejection to CEO. But Serena ignored every article. At 6:30 in the morning, she stood barefoot in her penthouse kitchen, wearing an oversized gray sweater, while warming milk for her daughter, Lily. The baby refused to sleep unless Serena held her against her chest, and honestly, Serena didn't mind. After years of fighting the world alone, Lily felt like the only thing that truly mattered. The tiny apartment Serena once rented in Chicago still lived in her memory. The cold nights, the unpaid bills, the fear of giving birth without enough money in her account. Now she owned half the skyline around her. but success hadn't erased exhaustion. Her assistant, Naomi, entered the kitchen carrying a tablet. You have interviews from CNN, Forbes, Bloomberg, and the BBC waiting for confirmation, Serena sighed. Cancel them. All of them. Yes. Naomi blinked. Most people would kill for this level of publicity. Serena looked down at Lily sleeping peacefully in her arms. I already know what it feels like when the world watches you, she whispered. I'm not raising my daughter inside a circus. Across Manhattan, Ethan Blake sat alone in his office staring at Serena's latest company projections. Every graph pointed upward. Employee satisfaction was the highest in company history. Revenue was recovering. Even public trust in Blake Technologies had skyrocketed since Serena took control. And somehow, that hurt more, because she fixed everything he broke. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Come in. Victoria Hale entered wearing a white designer coat worth more than most people's yearly salary. But her expression was ice cold. You embarrassed my family. Ethan leaned back slowly. The engagement ended months ago. You announced another woman as your wife in front of the entire elite class of New York. She is the mother of my child. Victoria laughed bitterly. And now she owns your company too. Ethan said nothing. Victoria stepped closer. You still love her? He finally looked at her. Yes. The honesty stunned even her. For a moment, Victoria's anger cracked into sadness. You know what the worst part is? She asked quietly. She's impossible to hate. Then she walked away forever. Meanwhile, Serena spent the following weeks transforming Blake Technologies from the inside. Instead of luxury executive retreats, she invested in employee housing assistance. Instead of throwing million-dollar launch parties, she expanded healthcare coverage for workers' families. Some shareholders hated her decisions immediately. She's too emotional. She runs the company like a charity. She's weak. Serena heard every insult and ignored all of them. Because numbers never lied, profits kept rising. One afternoon, Serena visited a company warehouse in Brooklyn unannounced. Employees nearly panicked seeing the CEO walking through loading docks without security. A young worker accidentally dropped several boxes while staring at her in shock. I'm so sorry, he stammered nervously. I can pay for the damage. Serena immediately crouched beside him to help pick up the fallen packages. What's your name? Daniel. How long have you worked here, Daniel? Almost 4 years. Serena noticed his shoes were falling apart, and his hands were trembling from stress. You look exhausted. The young man hesitated before speaking. My wife's sick. I've been working double shifts. Serena quietly asked for his employee file later that day. By evening, Daniel received a promotion, healthcare support for his wife, and paid leave. Nobody knew Serena personally approved it herself, but word spread quickly through the company. For the first time, employees felt seen, not managed. Seen. And slowly, loyalty towards Serena became something deeper than professional respect. It became love. That terrified the old board members, because people would fight harder for someone who cared about them. One rainy Thursday night. Serena stayed late at headquarters after everyone else left. Lily slept peacefully in a small nursery Serena had built beside her office so working mothers wouldn't feel ashamed bringing children to work. Serena reviewed contracts quietly until she heard footsteps outside. Ethan. He stood at the doorway holding takeout containers. You skipped dinner again, he said. I was busy. You've said that 3 nights in a row. She narrowed her eyes. Are you tracking my meals now? No, Ethan replied calmly. Your assistant is. Despite herself, Serena almost smiled. He placed the food on her desk carefully. Still her favorite ramen place. Still extra chili oil. Still remembered. That's manipulative, she muttered. I know. She stared at him for a long moment. Ethan looked exhausted lately. Dark circles under his eyes. Sleeves rolled carelessly. None of the polished billionaire perfection remained. For the first time since she met him, he looked human. I meant what I said at the gala, he said quietly. Serena looked away immediately. Don't! I failed you. You failed yourself first. The words hit harder because they were true. Ethan sat across from her silently. Do you know why I stayed silent back then? He asked. Serena's jaw tightened. Because you cared more about your company than me. Dunno. His voice cracked slightly. Because I was scared. She finally looked at him again. My entire life, Ethan continued softly. People taught me power was survival. Investors, my father, the board. Everyone kept saying emotions make men weak, and you believe them. Yes. Serena folded her arms slowly. And now? Ethan looked toward Lily sleeping peacefully through the glass nursery wall. Now I think fear makes people weak. Silence filled the office. Outside, rain rolled down the skyscraper windows while Manhattan glowed gold beneath the storm. Then suddenly, the building lights shut off. Everything went dark. A loud thunderstorm had knocked out power across several blocks. The nursery monitor beeped once before dying. Lily immediately started crying. Serena rushed toward the nursery instinctively, but in the darkness she accidentally stumbled. Before she hit the floor, Ethan caught her. For one suspended second, neither moved. His arm wrapped around her waist, her hand pressed against his chest. The storm outside rumbled violently, while old memories crashed between them. College coffee shops, midnight laughter, tiny apartments, dreams they once built together. Serena pulled away first. I'm fine. But her voice shook. Ethan released her slowly. Then together, without another word, they walked toward their crying daughter in the dark. Lily stopped crying the moment Ethan picked her up. The tiny baby blinked sleepily against his shoulder, while thunder echoed outside the dark skyscraper. Emergency backup lights slowly flickered on across the office floor, casting soft shadows over the room. Serena stood frozen for a moment watching them. Ethan had missed most of Lily's first months. Not because he didn't want to be there, because Serena never allowed herself to need him again. And honestly, she hated how natural he looked holding their daughter. Lily grabbed Ethan's tie with tiny fingers and giggled. Ethan laughed quietly. That sound hit Serena harder than she expected. For years, Ethan's laughter used to feel like home. She turned away quickly. The backup generator should activate soon. But Ethan noticed the tremble in her voice. You don't have to keep running from me every second. Serena crossed her arms. And you don't get to suddenly play perfect father because you discovered guilt. The words were sharp, necessary. Ethan accepted them without argument. You're right. That only frustrated her more, because she wanted anger from him, defensiveness, excuses. Instead, he just looked tired. I know I don't deserve another chance, he said softly while rocking Lily carefully. I'm trying anyway. Before Serena could respond, Naomi rushed into the office holding her phone. There's a problem. One look at Naomi's face told Serena this wasn't small. What happened? The Hale family. Within 20 minutes, Serena sat inside the executive conference room watching financial reports appear across the massive screen. Victoria's father had launched a hostile attack against Blake Technologies. 3 major investors withdrew support overnight. Social media bots suddenly flooded the internet, accusing Serena of manipulating Ethan emotionally to steal his company. Fake articles spread everywhere. She planned the pregnancy. Gold digger turned billionaire. Seduced her way to power. The cruelty felt painfully far. Milia. Serena stared at the headlines silently. For a brief second, she was back in that tiny Chicago apartment crying alone while strangers destroyed her online. Ethan slammed his hand against the conference table. This is my fault. Yes, Serena replied coldly. It is. The room fell silent. Executives nervously avoided eye contact. But Serena wasn't angry because of the headlines. She was angry because deep down part of her still hurt from the first time Ethan failed to protect her. And now history was repeating itself. Naomi spoke carefully. The media wants a response immediately. Then give them one, Ethan said. Serena looked at him sharply. No. He frowned. Serena speaking now changes nothing. It changes everything. No, she snapped suddenly, emotions cracking through her calm voice. It changes your conscience. The words stunned the room. Even Ethan looked shaken. Serena stood slowly from her chair. You know what hurt the most? She whispered. Not the breakup, not the humiliation, not raising a baby alone. Her eyes locked onto his. It was watching the man I loved stand silently while people destroyed me. Ethan couldn't speak. Because there was no defense. No explanation big enough. Serena inhaled shakily before regaining control. Meeting adjourned. Everyone quietly left except Ethan. The moment the doors closed, Serena's composure finally cracked. She pressed both hands against the table trying to steady herself. I hate that this still hurts. Ethan stepped closer carefully. It should hurt. Tears burned her eyes immediately, which only made her angrier. I rebuilt my entire life, she whispered. Why does one memory still feel stronger than all of it? Ethan's voice broke. Because I broke something I can never fully repair. The honesty nearly destroyed her. Serena turned away quickly before he could see tears sliding down her face. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Ethan quietly removed his suit jacket and placed it around her shoulders the same way he used to years ago, whenever she worked too late. The familiar warmth shattered something inside her. I don't need your pity. It's not pity. Then what is it? Ethan looked at her with painful honesty. Love. Serena closed her eyes instantly. Because after everything, part of her still loved him too, and that terrified her more than betrayal ever had. The next morning, Ethan Blake shocked the entire country. At exactly 9 a.m., he walked alone into the headquarters lobby where hundreds of reporters waited outside. No lawyers, no PR team, no prepared script. Live cameras broadcast every second. Ethan stood at the podium silently for several moments before speaking. I failed someone important to me. The reporters instantly quieted. For months, the world attacked Serena Vale while I said nothing. Not because the accusations were true, because I was weak. News alerts exploded across social media immediately. Ethan continued. Serena never used me for money. In reality, most of the innovations credited to Blake Technologies came from her intelligence long before she owned shares in this company. Inside her office upstairs, Serena watched the broadcast in disbelief. She built herself alone, Ethan said firmly. Everything she achieved belongs entirely to her. One reporter shouted, Are you saying the Hale family spread false information? Ethan looked directly into the cameras. Yes. The entire press room erupted. Stock market shook. News channels interrupted regarding Gula programming. And for the first time in years, Ethan chose truth over power publicly. But the consequences came fast. Within hours, several board members demanded Ethan resign permanently. The Hale family threatened lawsuits. Business partners cut ties. Financial analysts called him reckless. Ethan accepted every consequence without fighting. Because this time, Serena wouldn't stand alone. Late that evening, Serena found Ethan sitting alone on the rooftop terrace overlooking Manhattan. Cold winds swept across the city lights. He didn't turn when she approached. I probably destroyed what little reputation I had left today, he said quietly. Serena stood beside him silently. You should have done it years ago. I know. She studied his tired face carefully. For the first time since she met him, Ethan Blake looked free. No performance, no billionaire mask, just a flawed man finally telling the truth. That speech cost you everything, Serena said softly. Ethan gave a faint smile. No. He looked at her gently. Losing you cost me everything. The speech just admitted it. Serena's chest tightened painfully. Below them, New York glittered endlessly beneath the winter sky while snow began falling softly around the rooftop. Ethan glanced at her. I don't expect forgiveness. You might never get it. I know. Another silence passed between them. Then Serena finally spoke the truth she had hidden for years. When I was pregnant and alone, she whispered, there were nights I hated you so much I could barely breathe. Ethan looked shattered hearing it. But the worst part? Serena continued softly. Even then, I still missed you. His eyes closed briefly like the confession physically hurt him. Neither noticed the snow covering their shoulders slowly, or the city disappearing beneath white silence, because for the first time since everything fell apart, they were finally honest with each other. Snow covered Manhattan through the night. By morning the city looked softer, quieter. But inside Blake Technologies, chaos had only begun. The moment Ethan publicly exposed the Hale family, investors panicked. News channels replayed his confession non-stop, while financial experts debated whether the company could survive another scandal. Employees walked through headquarters whispering nervously. Some feared bankruptcy again. Othello. Urs feared Serena would finally leave. But Serena arrived at work exactly at 7:30 wearing a cream coat, carrying Lily in one arm and coffee in the other like nothing in the world could shake her. The entire lobby silently watched her pass. Not because she looked powerful, because she looked calm. And calm leaders were rare during disasters. Inside the executive boardroom, several senior members immediately began arguing. We need damage control. Ethan Blake must resign permanently. The Hale family will destroy us legally. One older executive pointed towards Serena sharply. This entire mess started because personal emotions entered the company. The room quieted instantly. Serena slowly placed her coffee on the table. Then she looked directly at him. "No," she said calmly. "This mess started because powerful men thought accountability was optional. Nobody spoke after that. Even the executive lowered his eyes. Naomi entered moments later holding updated reports. There's more. The screen lit up with breaking news. Hale Capital shares were crashing. Several former employees had stepped forward accusing Victoria's father of corruption, intimidation, and illegal financial manipulation dating back years. Anonymous evidence flooded federal investigators overnight. Serena immediately understood. Ethan. He had released everything. One board member looked shocked. He's burning down his own connections. Serena stared silently at the screen. He was burning down the world that taught him silence mattered more than integrity. Hours later, Serena found Ethan inside a nearly empty office packing books into cardboard boxes. He looked up with mild surprise. "You're early, You resigned." He nodded once. "As of this morning." Serena stepped inside slowly. "You built this company and nearly destroyed it. You still belong here." Ethan gave a faint, tired smile. "Maybe. But the company deserves a future without my scandals attached to it." Serena crossed her arms. "You think leaving fixes everything?" "No." He taped another box quietly. "I think it protects you." That frustrated her instantly. "I don't need protection, I know." "Then stop making decisions for me." Ethan paused. Old Ethan would have argued, controlled, defended. But this version of him simply nodded. "You're right." Again. Always H1 now. And somehow that honesty made it impossible for Serena to stay angry properly. Her eyes drifted across the office. The shelves still held pictures from years ago. Company launch parties, award ceremonies. One old framed photo caught her attention immediately. It was from Boston. Before the money, before the betrayal. Serena sat cross-legged on Ethan's tiny apartment floor laughing, while holding burned pancakes they tried to cook together at midnight. She looked genuinely happy. So did he. Serena picked up the frame slowly. "You kept this." Ethan looked at the photo quietly. "I never stopped loving you, Serena." The simplicity of the confession stole all air from the room. No dramatic speech. No manipulation, just truth. And truth was dangerous because Serena could feel herself weakening every time he gave it to her. She carefully placed the photo back down. "Love isn't always enough. I know. Sometimes people love you and still destroy you." Ethan's eyes lowered immediately. Yes, the silence between them grew heavy again. Then suddenly, Naomi burst through the office doors looking panicked. Serena. One look at her face made Serena's stomach drop. "What happened?" Naomi hesitated. "It's Lily." Fear exploded through Serena instantly. 10 minutes later, Serena rushed into Manhattan Children's Hospital while Ethan followed close behind. Lily had developed a severe fever at daycare. Doctors assured them it wasn't life-threatening, but Serena still shook uncontrollably while holding her daughter against her chest. All the billionaire composure disappeared immediately, because none of her power mattered when her child was sick. "She's okay," Ethan whispered gently beside her. Serena nodded, but tears still filled her eyes. "I wasn't there. You came immediately. I should have been there already." Ethan watched her carefully. "You know," he said softly, "most people in this city see you as untouchable now." Serena laughed bitterly through tears. "I feel breakable every single day." That confession hit Ethan hard because he understood it perfectly. Power fooled the world into believing successful people stopped hurting. But Serena still carried scars no one saw. Hours later, Lily finally fell asleep safely in the hospital room. Serena sat beside the bed exhausted, barely keeping her eyes open. Ethan quietly placed a blanket around her shoulders. "You should rest." "I'm fine. You haven't slept properly in days." Neither of them noticed the nurse watching quietly from outside the room. She smiled softly at another nurse nearby. "They look married already." Serena heard it. So did Ethan. Both awkwardly looked away, but neither corrected her. Around midnight, Serena finally fell asleep beside Lily's bed. For a long time, Ethan simply watched them, his family. The realization both healed and destroyed him, because he almost lost this forever. Carefully, Ethan adjusted Serena's blanket again when her phone suddenly buzzed across the chair beside her. One message, unknown number. Ethan normally would never invade her privacy, but then another message appeared immediately after, and his blood ran cold. "You stole the wrong empire." Then another. "Your daughter won't always be protected." Ethan's entire body froze. A third message arrived. This is only the beginning. For one horrifying second, the old Ethan Blake returned instantly. Cold, dangerous, protective. He quietly looked towards Serena sleeping beside Lily, then toward the threatening M. Messages again, and something dark settled behind his eyes. Because hurting him was one thing, threatening Serena and their daughter was another. Ethan stared at the threatening messages until the phone screen dimmed in his hand. Every instinct inside him turned lethal. For years he survived billion-dollar wars by staying calm under pressure. Investors feared him because he never reacted emotionally. But this was different. This wasn't business. This was Serena. This was Lily. And suddenly, Ethan understood why desperate men became dangerous. Behind him, Serena shifted slightly in her sleep beside the hospital bed. One hand still rested protectively near Lily's tiny fingers even while exhausted. Ethan looked at them quietly. Then he deleted the messages from the lock screen before Serena could see them. Not because he wanted secrets again. Because for one more night he wanted them to sleep peacefully. At 3 a.m, Ethan walked alone through snowy Manhattan streets toward a private underground parking garage beneath Blake Technologies. His face looked calm, but people who truly knew Ethan Blake would have recognized the silence immediately. It meant war inside the garage. Age-weighted Marcus Reed, former military intelligence, now head of Ethan's private security team. Marcus frowned the moment he saw Ethan's expression. What happened? Ethan handed him Serena's phone. Trace the number. Marcus read the messages once. His entire posture changed instantly. You think it's Hale? I think someone wants Serena scared. And if it's not just intimidation? Ethan's eyes turned cold. Then they'll regret touching my family. Marcus studied him carefully. You still love her that much? Ethan almost laughed at the stupidity of the question. There was never and still. By sunrise, Ethan had security teams surrounding Serena's penthouse, Lily's daycare, Blake Technologies headquarters, and every vehicle Serena regularly used. Serena noticed immediately. At 8:30 that morning, she marched straight into Ethan's temporary office carrying fury in her eyes. Why are there armed guards outside my apartment? Ethan didn't look surprised. You notice quickly, answer me. He stood slowly. You received threats last night. Her expression changed instantly. What? Ethan handed her the phone silently. Serena read the messages once. Then again, fear flickers. D across her face before anger replaced it immediately. You hid this from me? You were exhausted. You don't get to decide what I can handle. You were holding Lily while crying yourself to sleep in a hospital chair. Ethan snapped suddenly. Forgive me for wanting you to rest for 6 hours before the world attacked again. The room fell silent. Serena stared at him, not because he raised his voice, because beneath the anger was fear, real fear. For them, Ethan exhaled heavily, calming himself. I'm sorry. Serena looked back at the threatening messages quietly. Do you think they're serious? Yes. The honesty chilled her instantly. For the first time since becoming powerful, Serena remembered what it felt like to be vulnerable, and now she had a daughter to protect too. Ethan stepped closer carefully. I won't let anything happen to you. Serena met his eyes. That sounds exactly like the man who failed me before. The words cut deep, but Ethan accepted them. Then let me prove I learned. Before Serena could respond, Marcus entered quickly. We traced the messages. Ethan looked up sharply. And Marcus placed several photos across the desk. Private investigators. Corpora. They spy. Former Hale security contractors. One picture made Serena's stomach twist instantly. Richard Hale. Victoria's father. He's desperate, Marcus explained. Federal investigators are freezing assets. He thinks Serena ruined him. I didn't ruin him, Serena whispered. He ruined himself. Ethan looked toward Marcus. How serious is the threat? Marcus hesitated slightly. Serious enough that Serena and Lily shouldn't stay alone for now. No, Serena immediately said. Ethan frowned. Serena, I am not hiding because an old billionaire throws a tantrum. This isn't pride anymore. And this isn't your decision. The tension exploded again. Marcus quietly excused himself immediately. The moment the door shut, Ethan spoke carefully. You think accepting protection makes you weak? No, Serena replied. I think depending on people is dangerous. Ethan's expression softened painfully because he knew exactly who taught her that lesson. Him. Serena turned toward the window overlooking Manhattan. I spent my entire pregnancy terrified, she admitted quietly. Every doctor appointment alone. Every night wondering if I'd survive childbirth without anyone beside me. Ethan closed his eyes briefly. I know, don't. No, you don't, her voice cracked softly. You have no idea what loneliness does to someone. For several seconds, the room held nothing but silence. Then Ethan finally said the one thing he never said before. I hated myself every single day. Serena slowly turned back toward him. Ethan's eyes were red with exhaustion. Do you think I enjoyed those headlines? He whispered. Watching strangers destroy you while I sat beside people I despised pretending business mattered more. Then why didn't you leave? Because I was a coward. The raw honesty hit harder than excuses ever could. Ethan stepped closer slowly. My father spent my whole life teaching me emotions destroy powerful men. His voice shook slightly. And by the time I realized he was wrong, I had already destroyed the only person who ever loved me for free. Serena's chest tightened painfully. She remembered the younger Ethan. The boy who used to eat cheap pizza with her on apartment rooftops. The man who once stayed awake 3 nights helping her study for graduate exams. The version of him that existed before power poisoned everything. And suddenly she realized something terrifying. That versus. Ergen never completely disappeared. A soft knock interrupted them. Naomi entered quietly. There's someone downstairs demanding to see Serena. Who? Ethan asked immediately. Naomi hesitated. Victoria Hale. 20 minutes later, Victoria sat inside Serena's office, looking nothing like the polished socialite from magazine covers. No expensive diamonds, no perfect makeup, just exhaustion. Serena remained cautious. What do you want? Victoria looked directly at her. To help you. Ethan immediately frowned. That's not happening. Victoria ignored him. My father is unstable right now, she said calmly. Federal investigators are closing in. He blames both of you. Serena crossed her arms. And why would you help us? For the first time, Victoria looked genuinely sad, because unlike him, she glanced briefly at Ethan before looking back at Serena. I know what it feels like to live inside someone else's ambition. The honesty surprised everyone. Victoria reached into her purse and placed a flash drive on the desk. There's enough evidence here to finish my father permanently. Ethan stared at her carefully. Why betray your own family? Victoria laughed bitterly. You think he... Verb treated me like family? Silence filled the room. Serena slowly realized something important. Victoria wasn't evil. She was trapped too, just differently. Victoria stood to leave but paused at the door. Then she looked at Serena one last time. You know the ironic part, she said softly. My father spent years teaching me powerful women destroy men. A faint smile touched her lips. Turns out powerful women only destroy bad men. After she left, Serena stared quietly at the flash drive. Ethan watched her carefully. What are you thinking? Serena looked out across the city skyline slowly. I'm thinking... Her voice hardened softly. I'm tired of surviving. Ethan's eyes narrowed slightly. And? Serena finally looked back at him. This time we end it. By midnight, the war officially began. Rain hammered against the windows of Blake Technologies while Serena, Ethan, Naomi, Marcus, and a team of federal investigators gathered inside the executive conference room. Victoria's flash drive contained everything: illegal offshore accounts, bribed politicians, threatened employees, destroyed competitors, even recorded conversations proving Richard Hale manipulated media companies to target Serena during her pregnancy. The room fell silent as one audio recording played through the speakers. Richard Hale's cold voice echoed clearly. Break the girl publicly. Once people think she's unstable, Ethan becomes controllable again. Serena stared at the table without moving. Even now, hearing strangers discuss her life like a strategy made her stomach twist. Ethan looked ready to kill someone. Federal Agent Collins closed the laptop carefully. This is enough to indict Hale on multiple federal charges. When? Ethan asked immediately. Tomorrow morning. No leaks, Serena added quietly. If Hale panics, he becomes dangerous. Marcus nodded. He still has loyal security teams. Agent Collins stood. We'll move carefully. As the investigators left, silence settled across the room. Naomi finally exhaled. Well, she looked at Serena weakly. Your life officially became a Netflix series. For the first time all night, Serena laughed softly. Small, tired, but real. Ethan looked at her immediately like the sound alone healed something inside him. Naomi noticed, and silently rolled her eyes. Okay, she muttered. The unresolved emotional tension in this room is becoming physical. Seriously violent. Serena threw a pen at her. Naomi dodged it perfectly and escaped laughing. The moment the door closed, quiet returned again. Ethan leaned against the table watching Serena carefully. You should go home and sleep. So should you. I'll stay here tonight, Serena frowned. Why? Because if Hale realizes federal agents are moving against him, Blake headquarters becomes a target. She crossed her arms slowly. You really think he'd attack a corporation? No, Ethan said calmly. I think desperate men attack symbols, and I'm the symbol. Ethan didn't answer, because yes, she was. Serena Vale had become everything Richard Hale hated. A woman he couldn't control. A woman who survived humiliation. A woman powerful enough to expose him. And men like Richard Hale never forgave women like Serena. Hours later, around 2 in the morning, Serena finally fell asleep in her office lounge beside Lily's portable crib. Ethan stayed awake across the room reviewing security reports. But every few minutes his eyes drifted back toward them automatically. Serena sleeping curled beneath a blanket, Lily breathing softly nearby. Home. That dangerous word returned again. Home. He also. Others lost this forever because he spent too long trying to become the version of himself powerful people respected. And somehow, Serena still became stronger without turning cruel. Ethan quietly stood and walked toward the window overlooking Manhattan. Rain blurred the city lights below. You're staring again. He turned. Serena was awake, barefoot, sleepy, hair messy, beautiful in a way expensive people could never imitate. Ethan smiled faintly. You used to talk in your sleep during college. Serena groaned immediately. Oh my God. You once argued with imaginary professors about economics. That never happened. You also demanded French fries at 3 in the morning. Her eyes narrowed suspiciously. You're enjoying this too much. A little. For a moment, they almost felt normal again. Then Serena walked beside him near the window quietly. The rain outside softened into mist. You know what scares me? She asked suddenly. Ethan looked at her carefully. You? She gave him a look. I'm serious. So am I. Serena tried not to smile. Then her expression slowly faded again. I'm scared that after everything. She looked down toward the sleeping baby. Lily will grow up inside Circa. How's? Ethan's voice softened instantly. She won't. You can't promise that. Yes, he said quietly. I can. Serena studied him carefully. And if all this destroys us again? Ethan took a long breath. Then we rebuild again. The answer hit her unexpectedly hard, because years ago, Ethan would have fought to protect his empire. Now he talked like a man finally understanding people mattered more. Before Serena could respond, Marcus suddenly burst through the office doors. Hale's gone. Everything froze. What? Ethan snapped. Marcus moved quickly toward the security monitors. Federal teams arrived at his estate 20 minutes ago. Empty house. Private jet missing. Agent Collins called seconds later confirming the nightmare. Richard Hale disappeared, and nobody knew where. Serena's stomach dropped instantly. He ran. Marcus looked grim. Not just ran. Someone tipped him off. Ethan's expression darkened immediately. There's a leak. The realization poisoned the room instantly. Someone inside the company or federal investigation was secretly helping Hale, which meant nowhere was fully safe anymore. Marcus immediately started issuing security orders through his earpiece. No on. E leaves the building. Double all entry checkpoints. Serena looked toward Lily sleeping peacefully nearby. Fear crawled cold through her chest. For the first time since becoming successful, money suddenly felt useless again. Because wealth couldn't guarantee safety. Ethan noticed her shaking hands immediately. Without thinking, he stepped closer and held them gently. Serena looked up at him. I won't let him touch you, Ethan said firmly. The intensity in his voice made her believe him. And that was the problem, because trusting Ethan again felt terrifyingly natural. Suddenly, every screen inside the office building flickered, then turned black. One by one, across the entire floor, Marcus cursed instantly. That's not a power outage. Emergency alarms erupted through the building. Red lights flashed violently. Then the security intercom crackled. A terrified voice shouted through static, "We have armed men inside the building." Everything exploded into motion. Marcus pulled a weapon immediately. Ethan shoved Serena behind him instinctively. Lily woke up crying. Security alarms screamed across the skyscraper while footsteps thundered somewhere below them. Then the elevator display lit up, rising rapidly. straight toward Serena's floor. The elevator numbers climbed rapidly. Every floor felt like a countdown to disaster. Lily cried louder inside her crib while red emergency lights flashed across the office walls. Outside the glass windows, Manhattan glowed through the storm like another world entirely beautiful and unaware. Marcus checked his weapon quickly. Service stairwells are compromised. Ethan's expression turned ice-cold instantly. How many men? Unknown. Serena stepped forward immediately. Take Lily and leave. Ethan turned sharply. No, I'm serious. So am I. Marcus interrupted harshly. This isn't the time for emotional arguments. The elevator hit the 40th floor. Almost there. Security voices screamed through the radios downstairs. Glass shattered somewhere below. Then footsteps echoed from the hallway outside. Fast, organized, professional. Marcus moved toward the office entrance while Ethan pulled Serena protectively behind him again. Stay close to me. Serena looked furious even now. I can protect myself. I know, Ethan replied tightly. That's why I'm terrified. The confession hit her right in the center. Hest. Before she could respond, the office doors suddenly burst open. 3 armed security officers rushed inside. Mr. Blake, one shouted breathlessly. They're headed for this floor. How many? At least 8. Marcus cursed under his breath. They're not here to scare anyone. No. They came to finish something. Lily's crying filled the room again, and suddenly Serena understood the horrifying truth. This was never about business anymore. It was personal. One officer quickly locked the office security barriers while Marcus handed Ethan a second weapon. Serena stared at it in shock. You carry guns now? Ethan checked the magazine calmly. My world changed. So did mine, she whispered. Heavy footsteps thundered outside the hallway. Then bang! A gunshot exploded through the corridor. Another. Screams followed. Marcus immediately killed the lights inside the office. Darkness swallowed everything except the red emergency glow. Lily whimpered softly. Serena rushed to hold her close. Ethan moved beside them instantly. You need to leave through the emergency elevator. No, Serena. I'm not leaving you. The words slipped out before she could. Dee stopped them. For one stunned second, Ethan forgot the gunfire outside, forgot the danger. All he heard was her. Marcus snapped them both back to reality. Move! Another violent crash hit the hallway doors. The attackers were breaking through. Ethan grabbed Serena's face gently. Listen to me carefully. His voice stayed calm despite the chaos. If anything happens now. Tears filled her eyes immediately. Don't say that. Serena. You are not dying tonight. The fear in her voice nearly broke him. Outside, metal groaned violently as security barriers started failing. Marcus shouted, 10 seconds, then suddenly boom. The office entrance exploded inward. Smoke filled the room instantly. Armed men stormed through the broken doors. Chaos erupted. Marcus fired first. Security officers tackled attackers across the floor. Glass shattered everywhere. Serena shielded Lily instinctively, while Ethan pulled them behind a concrete support wall. Gunfire echoed deafeningly. One attacker spotted Serena immediately. There she is. Everything happened at once. The man raised his weapon towards Serena. Ethan moved without thinking. A gunshot exploded. Serena screamed. Ethan staggered. Blood spread across his shoulder instantly. No! Rage ripped through Serena's entire body. Marcus took down the shooter seconds later, while remaining attackers were overwhelmed by federal tactical teams finally storming the building from below. Within moments, the shooting stopped. Silence crashed over the office except for Lily crying hysterically. Serena dropped beside Ethan immediately. Blood covered his shirt. Her hands shook uncontrollably, pressing against the wound. Stay with me, she whispered desperately. Ethan tried to smile through pain. You're crying. Obviously I'm crying. His hand weakly touched her face. You still love me. Serena broke completely then. Years of pain, loneliness, anger, love, everything shattered at once. Yes, she sobbed. I hate that I still love you. Ethan's eyes softened. That's my favorite thing you've ever said. Do not flirt while bleeding. Despite the pain, he actually laughed weakly. Sirens echoed outside as medics rushed into the office. Marcus immediately secured the scene while federal agents dragged surviving attackers away. Then Agent Collins approached Serena grimly. It's over. Serena looked up sharply. Hail. Collins nodded once. Caught trying to cross into Canada an hour ago. Just like that, the war ended. Not with revenge, not with triumph, but survival. 3 months later, spring sunlight poured across Central Park, while reporters crowded outside the newly reopened Blake Foundation Center for Women and Children. Cameras flashed everywhere. Inside the building lobby, Serena adjusted Lily on her hip, while employees prepared for the opening ceremony. The foundation would provide housing, legal support, healthcare, and business education for single mothers and struggling women across New York. Everything Serena once needed. Everything she once lacked. Naomi approached grinning. "You know the internet calls you America's favorite billionaire now." Serena groaned. "That sounds horrifying." "It gets worse," Naomi laughed. "Women online are calling Ethan the reformed emotional support billionaire." Serena nearly choked laughing. Across the room, Ethan looked up immediately hearing her laugh. And just like always, his entire expression softened. The bullet wound healed slowly, though doctors warned the scar would remain permanently. Serena secretly liked that, not because he suffered, because scars meant truth survived. Ethan walked toward them wearing a simple black suit with Lily already reaching for him excitedly. "Traitor." Ethan lifted his daughter carefully. "She definitely likes me more. She likes anyone who carries snacks. That still counts." For a moment, they stood there quietly together. No boardrooms, no scandals, no billion-dollar wars. Just a family learning how to exist again. Eventually, Ethan spoke softly. "There's something I never asked you." Serena looked at him carefully. "What?" He hesitated, not nervous like a billionaire, nervous like the young man from Boston again. "The night at the gala," his voice lowered. "If I had chosen you back then instead of the company, would we have survived?" Serena thought about it honestly, then smiled faintly. "No." Ethan blinked. "No, we were too immature, too afraid, too broken by other people's expectations. He absorbed that quietly. Then Serena stepped closer. "But now?" she whispered softly. "I think we finally know what matters." Emotion flickered across Ethan's face. Not dramatic, real, the kind built from surviving loss together. Outside, reporters waited for statements about billion-dollar mergers and corporate futures. But inside the quiet sunlight of the foundation lobby, none of that mattered anymore. Because Serena Vale never took revenge. She took pain and built something kinder from it. Then Ethan leaned down and kissed her gently while Lily laughed between them like the S. Sound of a life neither of them believed they deserved.